This is Danielle Forrest, and welcome back to How to Increase Bookings for Your Honeymoon Package. So for part 2, let's talk about what we talked about yesterday real quick. We talked about the 3 simple steps for increasing your bookings. We created your plan. We became clear about your target and your offer. We talked about questions to ask yourself before creating your content, as well as the 12 essential elements for a great landing page. So what you will learn today is what type of download you should create, what your follow-up emails could include, how to finish your landing page, and setting up for reporting. So let's get into finishing your landing page and specifically the download. So I would recommend doing a checklist or guide, something about packing for the trip, planning, things to do in the area, ways to relax before their trip so they can fully optimize their honeymoon. So something that they would find of value. And here's a couple of examples that I found. So this one talks about best local spots. This is very specific, this one here, to a particular destination and what you can do in the area. And then this one, clothes and packing list. That's always a great go-to, especially for the bride. And once you have your download, then drafting your emails. So I like to think of it in terms of, for the first email, here's your guide or here's your checklist. It's just these are all great ways to keep in touch with them. And then for the second one, was it helpful? And then you might also include your blog or your social media channels. So here's something you might also like as you're planning your trip. And then for the last email, we are here for you. So maybe you want to include an FAQ or a call to action to book. Basically, with the communications that we sent them so far, we're moving them from awareness to consideration to purchase. So in awareness was that first initial, that guide or that checklist, and then for consideration, we're kind of moving them up a bit further. And then really let's talk about bringing it all together. So now that we have the landing page, the downloads, the emails, let's talk about collecting visitor information on that page. So there's so many great tools that you could use for collecting information, whether it's ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, MailChimp, etc. But something to keep in mind before you officially launch your campaign is how are you collecting information in the back end? And then what are you specifically collecting? I would recommend keeping it simple. Just say name, email, maybe a detail about what type of package they're looking for. But if you just have one honeymoon package, that would not necessarily be relevant. Or, if you have several offerings, maybe you could ask them which package they would be most interested in. And so now we're on to designing and developing all of your materials. So, hey, you as a marketer, your job is done, right? So helping the designer and developer create all of these items for you, or maybe you're doing all of it too. Some great tools for helping you design and develop your page is Unbounce, Lead Pages, Instapage. So we already talked about tools for your emails, so this is specifically tools for the landing page. And now it's time to celebrate. You've become clear on your target, you've created your offer, your landing page, your download emails are finished, and we've set things up for collecting visitor information. So on to reporting. So let's talk about vanity metrics. I struggle with this too. It is so, finding metrics that are actionable versus metrics that we just love to, whether it's likes, shares, follows, we just eat it up. So this is a great quote. It's more about the person and the action, metrics for doing. So I would keep that in mind as you're setting up your reporting and determining what you're going to track. So what leads to sales on the site? What are the particular key performance indicators for the site? Is it the number of calls, the downloads, the email signups, the bookings? These are all important, actionable things to track on your site. And what leads to sales in the emails? So what actions do you want them to take in your drip campaign? So before we talked about awareness, consideration, and decision or purchase. So this is a process that they've been going through from all the way from the ad that we've yet to create to the landing page to the download to the email. So thinking in terms of what you want them to do once they receive the emails. And then the ads. We're going to get more into this tomorrow, but for now, thinking in terms of what you want to track for this. I would recommend traffic over like, shares, followers. This is a great quote I found about the different stats that we like to look at. So it's definitely takes practice shifting your mindset from tracking what was traditionally tracked to tracking items that are more actionable. And reporting tools. So I really like this quote. Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. It is so true. So I would recommend keeping your reporting and your tracking as simple as possible. So using Google Analytics. And then if you need something more robust, I would recommend Raven tools. But if you're really focusing on the key actions that need to be taken at each step along the way, then Google Analytics should be sufficient and more than enough for that. So here is the full circle: deciding what to measure, collecting the information, analyzing it, and then deciding what to take action on. So it's a continuous process, not something that we just do in the beginning stages of setting things up. So I know you're super excited. We are getting so far along in this process. And to recap on what you've learned so far, we've talked about the type of download you could create, the type of email follow-ups, finalizing your landing page with collecting visitor information, as well as set up better reporting. So tomorrow we're going to go into the ads. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.